a playlist original.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your host Gaius and Jackson. It's a news episode today, and there is a decent amount to cover. A lot of controversial things at the top of the episode already. I didn't know we'd be talking about Emilia Pérez this much as we have, other than it being like a polarizing, like Oscar-nominated hopeful. And our last episode when we did the Oscar nominations, we talked about how polarizing it was. You know, receiving a lot of love, and then also receiving a lot of backlash because of some of his themes and like its depiction of Mexicans and then like the trans community and like, all this other stuff. I thought that would be the only issues with it. And then the film star Karla Sofía Gascón went and just bulldoze all that, and now there's like a new focus on what the controversy is, and now I don't even think people are really talking about the movie anymore, and it's much more about like everything that's gone wrong with her, and this is like only been a week, I believe.
Yeah, it didn't take long from that Oscar nomination before somebody was kind of feeling a little bit high and mighty, and too many times have we seen celebrity, not necessarily fresh off an Oscar nom, but how many examples can you think of like a celebrity that's like doing really well in the news and the media, getting accolades, maybe they're high off a great performance, and then they do something that comes crashing back down. And this is, I think, textbook what happens. What I want to know, like your opinion, and I've heard of the controversy enough like to suggest that we speak about it, but I haven't really like seen the actual I don't know, were they tweets that she'd made? I don't know what the actual controversy, like I haven't read what it was that was so controversial, but what I want to know is like if you have seen it or if you have any other insight, do you think it's enough to derail the Oscar
momentum?
Yeah, momentum, the word I'm looking for, campaigning. I know that Netflix isn't campaigning or paying for her to show up to anything.
Yeah.
So I know that's bad, but like voters still, that doesn't mean that people won't vote. But do you think that dream is already over for this actress? Or
yeah, well, I kind of think, I guess it's like a two question. I guess so people that, if you don't know, and I don't even know if I want to read all of her tweets because they're pretty awful. They go back at least 4 years. They were written in Spanish, so like I think because they're written in Spanish, I'm not saying that she didn't think that people would like find them, but there was a journalist, I don't have her name, but there was a journalist that specifically like sought them out because they felt that she was like a kind of false representative of like equality and kind of like, and she's built this platform, especially with this movie, on that, and then also breaking history as the first trans actress to be nominated for Best Actress at the Academy Awards. So there's all this like historic stuff that's going on with it, but this journalist was like, I sense like there's almost like a false narrative going on here with her, and that she's not being totally genuine. And a part of me thought like, so it's so weird how this kicked off, because she did an interview in Brazil, and this is actually the tamest of the things, but what started this was that she kind of insinuated that Fernando Torres, who's nominated for I'm Still Here, in the same category,
who is Brazilian, right?
Yeah. She seemed to make the insinuation that either the actress or the actress's team had started this like kind of online campaign to talk down about the movie Emilia Pérez and also her performance in it. And there are all these people started like pointing out, like sharing the interview, which was also in Spanish, so it had to be translated. But you're not supposed to do that per Academy rule. So they're trying to determine, one, if she broke Academy rules by accusing another nominee of like sabotaging another person's film and movie. And when that came out, I was like, she's been saying like a little too much, and I don't know if anything's going to set off someone saying something about her, but I was like, I feel like something's coming because she's talking a lot. And it was determined that she didn't break Academy rules. So I was like, and then she quickly came out and apologized for that. It was like, oh, I love and respect Fernando Torres, and like I loved her film, I loved her performance. I was talking more about the online campaign against the movie and not so much her. Blah 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 blah. Right.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, so you quickly got ahead of that, but then almost like a well-oiled machine, like the tweets didn't come out all at once. It was just like, here's one, here's another one. Oh, here's another one. They were like sporadically released, and I think that's what's to show like how many there were, so you didn't consume them all at once. And it seemed like a very strategic move to release them. But she said some pretty racist things about the Black Lives Matter movement and George Floyd.
Oh boy.
Muslims, Asians, other people in her industry that are of different races and ethnicities. She had some very pointed tweets about them that were offensive. Let's see. The author that kind of discovered this, the journalist Sarah Hagee is her name. She was the one that basically released these and like wanted to make a point that like this is a habit and this is not something that was just a one-time thing. That's why she pointed to in all the years of them coming out between 2016 and even as late as 2021. So that's still pretty recent. That there's a post from September 2nd, 2020, attached to a photo of a Muslim family in a restaurant, including a woman in a burqa that reads, "Islam is marvelous. Without any machismo, women are respected, and when they are so respected, they are left with a little square hole in their faces for their eyes to be visible and their mouths, but only if she behaves, although they dress this way for their own enjoyment. How deeply disgusting of humanity." And then she went on to say something else. Islam fails to comply with international rights, and that the religion must be banned as long as it does not comply with DDHH, using an abbreviation for human rights in Spanish law. She said in 2021, "I am so sick of so much of this shit of Islam, more Islam stuff, of Christianity, of Catholicism, and of all fucking beliefs of morons that violate human rights." Along with her post about Islam, Gascon posted a long thread about George Floyd just days after he was killed by a police officer, inspiring protests across the U.S. She said, "I really think that very few people ever cared about George Floyd, a drug addict swindler, but his death has served to once again demonstrate that there are people who still consider Black people to be monkeys without rights and consider policemen to be assassins." She said they're all wrong. In a follow-up post, she said, "Too many things to reflect on regarding the behavior of our species every time an event occurs. Perhaps it is no longer a question of racism, but of social classes that feel threatened by each other. Maybe that's only the real difference there." And then there are other very bad ones.
Right.
I thought it was interesting,
Clearly.
though. He also talked shit about Selena Gomez before they made the movie.
Oh. Wow.
She compared.
Dude,
so if you read the
studios don't like screen people. Like, you'd think that if they're going to, base a campaign around a person, if like they do get nominated in a role, and then do they not plan for things like this? Is I guess what I'm getting at, the basis of my question. Like, because now they've completely, like, they publicly cut her off of her campaign. They've said they're not funding her travel or her accommodations for her attendance at various award shows and like campaign stops. Even like their most recent like for-year consideration posts were the 13 nominations and screenshots.
And left her out, even though they're saying
not
like,
even on it.
The 13 are still there
for things like this. Like, those tweets aren't that old. You'd think that if you were going to like audition or even to become a crew member on a movie, something has these huge implications, that they would know something about the people that they're bringing on.
You think they would have? And Variety actually wrote a whole story about why didn't Netflix check her Twitter history before they went into.
Yeah, that seems like a staple.
And not just before. I guess before hiring her would have been like the time to do it, but they also spent $50 million on this Oscar campaign for the film, which included her. So that is a lot of money that they have now wasted, because now they've taken her all out of the campaigning for it. It's interesting because we made that whole comment about Zoe Saldana basically being the co-lead. It looks like she's the lead now on the Oscar poster for the movie now. They put a lot of emphasis on like the other nominations for the film and stuff. I agree with you though. Like, I feel like there's been so many examples of this, not during just like award season or something like that, where someone gets a job and then something happens and then a tweet from 5 years ago is pulled up out of nowhere, and then it's like, oh, like, why didn't you guys know about that? It's such an easy thing to vet, and the reason why we know it is because like it's so easy for journalists to find it. So if a journalist can go dig deep on someone's Twitter page, then like you as a studio or streaming platform or network should be able to find this stuff quickly and be like, hey, like, either scrub it now which might be
Yep.
bad too because it could come up. It could come up later, but like do something to get around it before it turns into this because I guess it looks like you're standing up for what's right by like kind of excluding her from all this stuff, but you should have done it right from the beginning and not now. And the only reason you're doing it now because like they forced your hand to do it. They had to like. I kept wondering when this all was coming out, like what was going to happen. If like how's she gonna be included? Like there's like it's gonna be a really awkward like Oscar always do that yearbook photo with all the nominees. I'm like that's gonna be awkward. Any campaigning this week is gonna be really awkward if she's there. She's not going to the PGA. She's not going to the Critics' Choice Awards. She's not going to any other LA based events for the movie. She's still invited to the Oscars. But I don't know if she would even want to go.
Well,
and
yeah.
and I don't think she helped herself. I think she released 2 apologies. I think I lost track.
Yeah,
but
well,
they weren't really...
then it rings like "Sorry, I got caught," sort of. But these tweets are not old enough that I'm like, this is a different person now with different views. Like at the time of her making this movie, those tweets are only like 3 years old, give or take.
Yeah,
like that's not a very significant amount of time.
It isn't, and as her apologies are half apologies. There's like, sorry if I offended anyone, but also kind of coming down. First of all, like once you say we like in any social setting, whatever setting, once you say something like I'm sorry that you got offended, that's not an apology. It is kind of like you're not even taking ownership.
Also, people got offended. So sorry if I offended anybody is not ownership, not accountability. That's deflection. That's not an apology.
Yeah. She also said that people shouldn't spread misinformation, but like that misinformation was being spread by her through her tweets. And then she did quit her X page, or she deactivated it.
Okay.
But her apologies so far have not been enough. They've been very much like it's weird because I don't want to speak on this too much because I'm not a member of the trans community, so I can't really speak on it. Right. But from what I've seen from other people who are in that community who have kind of talked down on her apology is that she's almost using the trans thing as a shield to kind of be like, well, I'm also different. I've also been marginalized, that kind of thing. And they're like, no, you can't do that. Like they said, we're trying to come to a point where representation for us is significant and it's already hard to come by. And now someone who is within that community or our community, it's made it much more difficult for us to do that. And for you to kind of use it as a shield and almost like, oh, don't get mad at me kind of thing. Like, right. Yeah, so I understand the frustration there. I would be pretty upset too. Especially because she was being used as like, not used, but she was the image of this kind of like historic thing that kind of came about with the movie. And now it's just like, what happens? I mean, like, if I were her, I wouldn't want to go. That's not the Oscars being the last big thing, right? And even the people on social the movie are distancing themselves from her. So as Aldana said, she heard it. It saddens her. She said it wasn't a reflection of the person she did the movie with, but she doesn't support anything that she said. Director came out today, said the same thing. Said that what he said too, I'm kind of paraphrasing because I wrote about it earlier, but he said what upsets him is how destructive it keeps getting. Like with every apology she makes, that she isn't seeing how much she's hurt these people that she's really talked about in a negative way. And with each apology, you think that he says like it seems like she's personally in this like destructive kind of point where she's not making a lot of sense and she's not really seeing like the clear error of like her actions. And like sometimes an apology just needs to be an apology without you explaining why you did it. Just like just admit that you were wrong, and then maybe she wouldn't have come out of it with even the most sincere of apologies, but it would have gone a long way than the 2 or 3 half apologies that she's given. And the director also said that he has not spoken to her since this all started. So I don't know where she stands. I mean, if you were her, would you go? Does she still? I mean, she's still nominated. I mean, like, and they said like as a nominee, she is still like invited to go. Like, they're not going to like prevent her from going.
Yeah, I think that would be a controversy in and of itself that the Oscars can't afford. Because then I think you
Yeah,
get into, well, actually, I won't even go down that road, but I'm sure it doesn't look good regardless of the content of her horrific tweets, like in her opinions. Like once you get into like banning somebody because of what they've said, right or wrong, I think that just invites unwanted attention to the show that I'm sure that they are really trying to just hope this goes away. If I'm her,
yeah,
I mean, it would just be, I think you don't want to be the elephant in the room at a place anywhere, let alone a place like the Academy Awards. So unless there's a drastic turnaround in the next like 3.5 weeks, you wouldn't catch me there if I was under fire for something like that. But I'd
yeah,
say with these being as public as they are, and I'm just looking at the news here and how much this has been covered, can't help but seem like that campaign is over. Can't see her
yeah.
winning
And
with all
I do feel
this.
sorry a bit for the other people involved in the movie. Whether or not you like the film or not,
Mhm.
that's a whole nother discussion. Um,
I've yet
but
to see it. That's
a
coming
lot
down
of
the pipe.
people worked hard on it,
Yeah,
and
no doubt.
and their work shouldn't be diminished because of the ignorance of one person.
This is true.
Director commented on it today that this is a very crucial award season week. They're all going to these different events to kind of further campaign before voting closes. Um, and he said that it's kind of like been met with this kind of like bittersweet kind of thing because it's like you want to celebrate the movie, but you know that what she's done has kind of overshadowed it,
Mhm.
and you have to kind of get around that. And he said he feels especially sorry. He kept bringing up Zoe Saldana. I mean, like she is a front runner in her category, and when you mentioned it earlier, does it hurt the movie's chances in other categories? Almost like a guilty by association kind of thing.
Right.
Would that change if you're an Oscar voter? Would your voting suddenly change? Where I don't want to give that movie anything. Um, I don't know. Like they spoke to some people
For some
anonymously.
people, it must.
Yeah, they spoke to some people anonymously that said on the one side, speaking as on Zoe Saldana, they said like it shouldn't affect her at all. Like her performance is separate from anything else going on in the film. And then other people thought that that what's going on might leave such a bad taste in people's mouth that they might not want to support the film at all. I do feel bad in that regard. I mean, like, and then that's what's going to be like. Let's say Zoe Saldana loses, that's going to be over that for a while. Did she lose because they just
Yep.
didn't want to vote for her because of what's going on, or did whoever win was the one that they really wanted to win? Like, that's always going to hang over it. And he's right. A lot of people did work. A lot of you know, costume designers, all like editors, all the stuff it's nominated for.
Mhm.
They worked hard on it, and now it's all being tainted by this thing. And I do feel bad in that regard. Now, there's a litany of other issues with the movie. I mean, that as a film, I guess, but
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
as far as like the creativity and hard work that goes into these things, like I do feel bad that it's overshadowed like their hard work, and I
Mhm.
think it's become so big that I don't know if it can recover from it in the next few weeks. It's the only narrative that's existed since last week about the movie,
I mean, since
and
its
that
nominations, virtually all the conversation around this movie that I've seen has been negative, and that doesn't bode well for it going into Oscar voting.
yeah,
That's not to discount like the hard work that you mentioned that went into this movie and the people that are being celebrated for it. But I know this movie is not popular, and this scandal doesn't do anything to help it. And so I can't help but seem, at least for a few categories, this movie just got derailed. But I guess time will
yeah.
tell.
I mean,
As yeah, we don't have much.
if you were an Oscar voter, would it change your opinion on like the movie as a whole, or would you kind of like would
Not my
it?
opinion of the movie. I'd have to see it before I could even comment on if I would vote it for anything. And just based on what I know and the sequences that I have seen from it, it's not gonna be anything I would have voted for anyway. Anyway, I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to see it. Like I want to be in the know. Come Oscar night, I want to have as an informed opinion as possible. So it's definitely on my watch list. But at this point, I just nothing that I could say would mean anything where I haven't seen it. But I can separate like the outward scandalous things that have happened to a movie from the movie itself. Like even
yeah,
when there's horrific allegations or even convictions about somebody that's appeared in movies comes to light, like that doesn't change my opinion on movies that they've starred in in the past. Like I can separate
Right.
to a degree art from artists. Like I know many people can, some people struggle with that, and that's all right. But no, this controversy isn't going to change how I'll be thinking about it when I'm watching the movie, but not in terms of my like love or hate for it, whatever that ends up
Yeah.
being.
I will say this too. I mean, we've talked about it before. It always amazes me how quickly people can rise and fall. I think around one of the big things that we covered in the beginning, I guess pretty much in the early parts of you being on, was the whole like
Yeah, Jonathan
Jonathan
Majors.
Majors
Yep.
stuff, and that was he went from being like the it guy to within a few weeks not being that, and he hasn't recovered from that, at least not professionally, not yet. I mean,
I think Magazine Dreams might get him some
do some,
goodwill now that those charges have
yeah,
been dropped and everything too. Like maybe
yeah.
people will look at him more forgivingly. But
Also, there's like a saying that says like say it, forget it, write it, regret it. Like think about what you're gonna write publicly before you who knows, you might become famous someday and they might want
yeah,
to unearth these things.
that's
Like
a great
and
saying.
what but I mean but I guess like it's like this tale that's as old as time. I don't understand. We've seen so many examples of like so and so's old stuff popping up again, usually
Yep.
via X Twitter.
Yep.
I mean, I guess like if I was someone's publicist or manager, even if it wasn't necessary, I'd be like, hey, like maybe let's just go and like check out your stuff. Like, not saying you did anything wrong, but like just go like look at it before like we sign this big movie deal or like something like that.
Yeah.
Because like certain websites pay people like to just that's their only job.
Yeah.
Is to
100%. Dig
go
up
is
dirt.
to go to dig up dirt. Is to go through
Yeah.
people's like social media and dig up dirt. So just I don't know, just think about it next time. I mean, you have too many examples of it
Mhm.
blowing up in your face, and I don't know why more people don't are more cautious of like doing that. Or like, but I guess like anyone when they're behind a keyboard, they get trigger happy and forget with their fingers.
Right.
I don't know, like they get like there's like
There's
what they
that
call that like keyboard confidence. Like they get like very
100%.
like
It's a thing. Yeah, I think you don't empathize as much like when you're behind the screen. You don't think about the real world ramifications of what you say. You think that it just goes into the cloud and disappears, but no, there's implications. What you put online is there forever. And it's crazy to me that like we're, almost 2 decades into having social media as like a mainstay in popular culture and people seem
yeah
to not understand that yet. It's baffles me. But
yeah
she won't be the last. There will be more people that regret what they say or stuff will get dug up. But yeah, it just
yeah
baffles me that with all the money and resources that studios have, especially in the public relations department, that they don't account for this and don't proactively address it or get it to be deleted. If it gets discovered otherwise, you can always fall back on, yeah, we addressed this before the hiring and determine that this actor or whoever didn't feel this way, that this wasn't representative of them anymore, that's why they were deleted. And you can't
yeah
do everything to counter it, but to just let it sit there for someone to dig up and expose, it definitely isn't the right play either if you're care about your perception going forward. But
yeah. I think my
anyway,
my buddy was like, I don't think she thought he was gonna like translate those Spanish tweets. I was like, a part of me thinks that was a little bit of the problem because they were all in Spanish, and I think she
yeah,
maybe thought like no one's gonna take the time to go through my X
it's not
page and
that
like
difficult to do,
it's not
right?
hard.
Like,
It's like it's a simple translation like website will do it for
yeah,
you, dude. It's not
exactly.
hard at all. And again, I said like I'm not saying that you can't have an opinion on something, but her opinions were becoming very not as negative as what was exposed, but like in regards to how people felt about the film, and almost like again, she was using the whole trans thing as an argument. I was like, no, some people don't like your movie because they don't think it's a good movie. Like that,
Right,
it has nothing to do with like you being trans or anything like that. They just don't think it's a good film. And the
right.
more that she talked about it, I was like, no, it's very defensive, but in a really mean way, and almost like
Hmm.
you know demeaning someone else and assuming that's why they're not enjoying
Yeah,
your project. Like it was bound to kind of blow. I just didn't think it was gonna blow up like this. But
right.
yeah, it's unfortunate. But I do feel like we said we feel more sorry for the other people that worked on the movie
Hmm.
than anything. And because now it has this like scarlet letter on it. Um and it's not their fault. But I mean I would hope that maybe Hollywood, the industry at these events that are coming up, I hope they put their armor at least around the other people that worked on the movie, being like, "Hey, it sucks that you guys are going through this. It has nothing to do with like the rest of you." That would be a
Hmm.
nice gesture for the other actors, creatives that worked on that film, because I think they probably feel that like they are being lumped into situation with her that they don't want to be lumped into.
Speaking of which, this other scandal and people getting lumped into, there's been a lot of other names attached to another big scandal that's going on in Hollywood right now. One that I know that you're a little bit more caught up with than I am, but I knew that there had been some more stuff added to the plate of the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively lawsuit, and some names like Taylor Swift, Ryan Reynolds are fully in the fold of this. And it's looking really, really ugly. And I got to say that things have really changed. I think opinions are flip-flopping back. Things do not look great on the Blake Lively side. Yeah. But Justin Baldoni released footage of an event that Blake Lively had revealed in the lawsuit. She claimed that it made her really uncomfortable, that there was like unwanted and unwritten like romantic and sexual acts that Justin Baldoni kind of threw into the screenplay. And then he releases footage of this happening from the dailies of the movie while they were shooting it, of the event that Blake Lively's talking about. And it is pretty clear that like her actions at least do not line up with what she'd said she'd felt in the lawsuit. And it just looks disastrous for her and Ryan Reynolds. And then a lot of celebrities and like other social media personalities I've seen have really sunk their hooks into this story and are giving regular updates on like TikTok and Instagram and probably really X, but I don't have an account anymore. But like this is getting a lot of coverage, and I'm seeing a near universal opinion that favors Justin Baldoni. And I know it's not over, it's not said and done yet. But just from what I've seen, like I tend to sway to his side as well. I want to be careful when I say that. Like I really, at the end of the day, like don't really care. Like I think it's fun to talk about. I'm not invested in this like drama other than for the sake of talking about it, like where it relates to what we talk about for the show. But I know that things aren't always what they seem until, you know, everything's said and done. But like I'll just say it doesn't look good for the other side right now.
So that video, and keep in mind, guys, you're listening to two men discuss this.
Exactly.
So when I first saw that video, I was like, oh, it looks like they're because it's supposed to like so in the movie that scene plays over. It's like almost like a montage, so there's no dialogue. So it's like it's supposed to be kind of like the evolution of like their love story. Which again, if I were to watch that movie now with the lens I have now, it had to be so awkward for both of them working on this at a certain point.
Right.
Whatever side you fall on, it couldn't have been easy to get through the shoot. So when I saw the video, I was like, okay, if she looks comfortable, right? And like if she doesn't look like there's something that really made her feel uneasy. But then I had a lot of my female friends watch it, and they had a whole different perspective on what that video felt like for them. They said that she did look uncomfortable, and that she used jokes and levity to kind of deflect how uncomfortable she was, and that he did do some unwanted stuff. Like there was no intimacy coordinator there, and in her like there was no scripted like kissing or rubbing the nose, like all that stuff. That wasn't scripted. That was all improv by him. And a lot of the girls felt like she did what she needed to do to be professional to get through it. And so the way you and I would look at it, as if like she seemed fine, like it didn't seem like anything wrong. And like so, like I was like, oh, I guess I can see that. And then they interviewed like a reporter interviewed an intimacy coordinator that watched that wasn't on set, but that watched the video. And they said, what stands out to you as an intimacy coordinator when you watch this scene? She said the first thing is that he is trying to kiss her, and they clearly haven't discussed that ahead of time, and she keeps pulling away and clearly doesn't want to do that. And it says, normally if you're going to shoot a scene where characters are kissing, would you discuss it beforehand? And they said an intimacy coordinator would, but there's too many reasons why people bring on an intimacy coordinator, either simulated sex on screen or nudity. Anything else that can be considered intimate, we're not always present or required to be there. In a scene like this, it's really common that you wouldn't bring on a coordinator because there's no simulated sex or nudity, and there's not even kissing written into the scene. So there's a whole issue of it not being written and him improving it and doing it himself. Again, I don't know. Like, I try to look at it from that perspective too. Like,
I mean,
after what my friends told me, and like
for sure,
some people do use levity to get out of situations that are uncomfortable.
Absolutely. It's easy to say, why wouldn't you You like shut that
It,
down. That's not the right way to look at it either. Like it's natural to kind of use like jokes to deflect or to de-escalate when you're feeling uncomfortable. So that it could absolutely be what she was doing there without a doubt.
and I also don't think it was scripted for him to tell her how good she smells. That could be off-putting for
Yeah, that came
you know.
across as improvisational for sure.
um
Um, how about the text, the whole using Taylor Swift as a bargaining chip and the whole
oh
Khaleesi,
oh
like
she's
that
saying
whole
that she
thing.
was like, well, she basically said that she's like, I don't know if you know seen Game of Thrones, but she's like Khaleesi, like she's like a Khaleesi, like Lively, and she
Right.
has her dragons, and she doesn't name her dragons by name really, but we all know who
Right.
they are, and that would be her husband Ryan Reynolds
Yep.
and then her best friend Taylor Swift. Um, could you read that as, if you're him, could you read it as like kind of like a, I won't say threat. That's too aggressive, but as like a, hey, I have these powerful people behind me, so like almost do what I say. Like kind of like, I want to
Yep.
make these changes happen. I have more power than you. You could. I also think it's just a really stupid statement for her to make, and maybe she didn't mean anything by it other than trying to say that she has a strong support system behind her and that
Right.
they're all really creative people and blah blah blah. It doesn't look
Mm.
good. That didn't look good. That she got ripped apart for that
Yeah.
online. Um,
That's
there's
a
also
big
there's also the voicemail that he left her that he released himself.
yeah.
Um, which is him, like he's trying to prove that like there's this whole issue about this rooftop scene in the movie that she rewrote, and when he was invited to her and Ryan Reynolds' place and a big celebrity friend was there, and everyone knows now that that was probably Taylor Swift, and that he felt pressured into like basically succumbing to whatever changes she made to that
Mhm.
scene. He was trying to prove in this voicemail that he called her and apologized and was saying that he really liked her ideas and blah 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 blah, and that like sometimes he may not admit he's wrong right away, but he'll admit he's wrong later. And he mentioned his wife too. He said his wife can attest that he sometimes is like that, and he was trying to prove this to prove that he felt pressure into making these changes. I didn't get that vibe from that voicemail at all because eventually later in the voicemail, he makes a reference to like, oh, I'm rambling on and on, and your kids are all over you probably, and you probably have a baby on your boobs, so I'm going to let you go. And that's a reference to her breastfeeding, right?
Right.
I think any company, if you had HR and like someone mentioned like, hey, he's making a reference to me breastfeeding, even if I wouldn't think it's that offensive, I can see how she might. He's your director, he's your producer. He should
Mhm.
be referencing like you, you know, breastfeeding. And that was one of
Right.
the issues in her complaint was that like, you know, he would come into her dressing room allegedly while she was breastfeeding, even though she told him not to. So this does keep flip flopping though. I remember when she sued him, it all seemed to go on her side, and
Right.
then more lawsuits came out, and then now it seems like it's just like a tennis match where people are
It
like, I don't know who to believe at this point or what's true.
right. It just
It's
gets juicier by the day. And regardless, like it there is an appearance that he sort of took some material from the movie like too far and crossed some boundaries. And it
yeah,
also comes across that, and whether or not that's true or not, or whether or not the next part is true or not, that she used her powerful allies and her husband and Taylor Swift to sort of bully her way into like more of a producer role in the movie. Both are appearing as to have happened at this point, and that kind of makes
yeah,
them both wrong.
yeah. Could it be a situation where like both things could be true? Like maybe
Yeah,
she
100% it could be,
abused her power,
definitely.
right? And
Yeah.
maybe he did sexually harass her, made her feel uncomfortable. Like maybe it was a perfect storm of like both of these things happening.
Hmm.
And yeah,
What I can't like what have trouble wrapping my head around, and I'm sure there's something I'm just not considering, but like if I'm Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds invite me over to their penthouse to talk about adding new things into the movie and changing the script around a bit, and they just have Taylor Swift sitting on the couch over there being like, yeah, listen to Blake Lively's
randomly, right?
ideas. Who gives a
Yeah,
shit what Taylor Swift thinks? I
yeah,
know she's a powerful, influential person, like arguably one of the most
yeah.
of those things in the world right now. But like, what is she gonna do if he doesn't comply? Like, trash the movie? Like, no, her best friend Blake
Right.
Lively is the other co-star. Like, I don't think that there's really a lose a losing scenario there if Justin Baldoni genuinely didn't care for her contribution and doesn't go with her ideas. What's Taylor Swift being there going to change? That's just I think it's kind of funny just imagining her there, like kind of like slowly poking Justin
Because I can
Baldoni.
actually,
Like,
because
yeah,
I can
this is Blake
actually,
Lively.
because I can
Like, who
see it
cares?
actually in my head. I can
Yeah.
see it transpiring that way in my head. But also, if I were him, and like I would just, if I was going to this meeting about a film that, I mean, I don't even mind her husband being there, right? Like they're married. She lives with her husband. He should be there. But if I was like, I'm like, yo, she's not even in our movie. Why is she here at this meeting about our film and a scene from our film? Now, I think there's an issue of like Taylor Swift's song being used in the movie, and that's where I think that song was used. That scene, whatever. But even then, this is way during like the filming of the movie. Like any songs being added would be added in like post production. It's not like something that needs to be done while. So yeah, that visual is hilarious to me. But I also I don't really get him, like the stuff that he's released too doesn't really it goes some way to prove some of his points, but it goes also to prove like, yo, you're kind of weird too.
Because the voicemail was really cringy to listen to, I'm not gonna lie.
And this is stuff released by him. And then I think it's into the last thing this MC coordinator that they interviewed for Hollywood Reporter said about the power dynamics between them on this set. She said, even though she's Blake Lively and can say no and isn't going to be fired for speaking her mind the way that somebody else might fear, she still has to keep working with him and keep the peace and play nice. I can just see her trying to stay lighthearted and in good spirits about it and not upset him or anybody else and not waste anyone's time. But of course, she is trapped between a rock and a hard place. I can see her appeasing him and trying to keep a smile on her face while making the movie. So, I mean, I guess all those things would be true too. I know the crisis P firm that works for Justin Baldoni. They have now sued Blake Lively for defamation. I think this movie is running out of people to sue. Like everyone's being, and it's so hard to keep. She's being sued for causing the PR firm millions of dollars in reparational harm due to her comments. I don't know. This goes to trial in March of 2026 officially. Unless they have
that long from now. Jeez.
which means that we're gonna hear like so much more of this. Like
we'll be following this for quite a while then.
I was surprised though. They announced that Another Simple Favor is gonna open. This is a sequel to A Simple Favor, a movie she did with Anna Kendrick. It's gonna open South by Southwest, which if this controversy was so bad, I didn't think they would have her movie open a festival like that, and that's a pretty big festival. I mean, maybe they think that like, it's the notion of like any kind of publicity is good publicity, and put more eyes on the movie.
Perhaps
the big question is if she will attend said premiere. She has taken a few selfies with her husband and friends. They've been on social media. She's not hiding, but she hasn't been to any events since this all started. That would be a major event for her to go to. She could still go and actually tell everyone at that premiere, if she happens to do interviews, that they aren't allowed to ask her about this and they can shut it down right away. Or she could just not do any interviews at all and just like go on stage with the cast and introduce the movie. I think she should still, this is again me not knowing where I fall in this anymore. I thought I did. Now I don't know. But I think it's a good look to go to these things and show that you're not like hiding or slinking away. So it's it's for a movie that she's probably proud of, so she should go and promote it. But yes, it's a saga that doesn't seem to stop. At this point, I think they're gonna like sue craft services. They're like running out of people to sue from the movie, but it's ugly. And like I said the last time I brought it up, a $350 million grossing movie made a lot of people a lot of money, them included. And I think all this is being wasted on lawyers' fees trying to fight all this, and it's crazy that success is now tainted by whatever this is.
And the legacy of the movie, I think, will always live in the shadow of this controversy and lawsuits as well. But time will tell how all this unfolds, and court is over a year away before the dirty laundry really gets aired out. But I
full on gas. I gasped when I saw the year. I was like a whole year. Like, I don't want to.
I mean, that is pretty typical. I don't know about civil court, but I don't know, criminal court's usually scheduled like really far in advance because it's so overflowing. But
because you got to gather evidence and all that stuff too, like
for sure, but that just seems like a really long ways away. But in any case, I'm sure when more comes out about it, we'll tackle it. But
Yeah.
But controversies aside, there's, I guess, some more news to look forward to casting wise. With the Odyssey and Scream 7 had some announcements
Yeah.
recently.
It did.
Um,
Do you want to go to Odyssey first?
yeah, for sure. I believe we covered on the show last time we talked about the Odyssey that Tom Holland was in the lead role, right? That
Right.
had happened by the time we last covered the
And
news.
that's when John Berthal was added
Yes,
to the cast. We
exactly.
mentioned it briefly.
Right.
It's grown like a little bit more. Actually, I feel like a lot bit more.
Yeah.
We got another reunion. Elliot Page is going to be in the
Right.
movie. Elliot Page was an exception, so that's
Right.
another Christopher Nolan reunion. I guess
15
Benny,
years. Yeah.
15 years in the making. I believe Benny Safdie is now in the movie as well. Was in Oppenheimer, I believe, right? It's
Yep.
now in the movie too.
Nice. I didn't see the Benny Safdie castings. That's pretty cool.
And then we also got Bill Irwin, Samantha Morton, and Amish Patel. I think that's all of them so far. But
Okay.
the
Cast
more
is
the
shaping
more
up
the
quite
cast,
nicely.
yeah, it's pretty stacked. I mean, of course, all these people might have like smaller parts and then bigger parts, but it's just again another testament of like the people that want to work with him. And it also, I mean, I guess this kind of movie it needs a big sprawling cast, I would assume.
Yep.
But so it's good names though. I like everyone attached to it so far. I wonder if we are going to hear any more. Like, I love how they stagger these things out. I know like sometimes they're staggered out because deals are still being made, and then sometimes they
Right.
stagger them out because they're building anticipation and don't want to like give away all their surprises all at once. But since we're getting names like this, which aren't as big as the initial cast, I think this might be it. But who knows? It's Christopher Nolan. He might have more.
Perhaps. You never know. Yeah.
But I'm liking it so far. I mean, it's a really solid ensemble cast so far. And yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong in my book at this point.
No, when does filming start on that? That must be like in the next couple months or a few months.
Actually, I heard in depending, I think the next couple of weeks.
Oh, awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah, we'll be probably talking about that more soon as it begins filming. I don't know if you want to comment any more about the additional cast members or to the Odyssey, or have you had any
No,
other
I mean,
thoughts?
I agree that the cast is shaping up nicely. I agree that probably most of the worthwhile casting announcements have probably come with this. I mean, there's already so many A-listers in this movie. Like, I mean, I'm sure that with it's ready to start rolling here any day now, that's probably the end. But I'm excited for the reunions that are coming up in this movie. I'm really excited to see John Bernthal work with Nolan. That'll be quite the dynamic. Yeah, I mean, other than like I know I've made my thoughts about Tom Holland and the lead be known, but Chris Nolan is yet to disappoint. I'm excited to see what he can do and what that will mean for Tom Holland's future acting career going forward, because I think this is probably as big as it gets at that age, like working with this director. So I'm excited for him. But yeah, no, I couldn't be more excited for the movie, and I think we've just but a year and a quarter before it
Yeah.
releases in theaters, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be
July
crazy. By the
2026.
time,
Yeah.
that's how you know it. We'll be talking about how we're gonna be seeing it in a week. That's how fast this will
Yeah,
go by.
yeah, exactly. They all seem to go by that quick, and he'll
Yeah,
probably be competing with Denis Villeneuve again for,
yeah.
I'm guessing, Doom
Doom
Messiah.
Messiah. Don't do that to
Yeah,
him. I mean, that
yeah.
sucks. And then now this next bit of casting news, it's more of a what are they doing kind of thing. I mean, it got people excited. On G Reels, the two stories were my most popular stories, other than the faculty reboot news that will come after this. But
Okay.
first, Scott Foley joined the cast of Scream 7. Scott Foley has already been in a Scream movie. He was in Scream 3. He played Roman Bridger, who turned out to be Sidney's half brother. He was shot point blank in the head, so that character is dead. But
Okay.
he is in Scream 7. They didn't say in what capacity. They just say he's back. And then Matthew Lillard, who plays Schumacher, who died in the first movie, TV
Yep.
dropped on his head, is also returning for Scream 7. There's been rumors of Matthew Lillard coming back since Scream 2. It's been always a thing with each film that comes out. I guess with this news, which is, I guess it's cool that they got the fandom all excited. There were a pocket of people that were like, this feels like jumping the shark and they're doing too much kind of thing. But I was wondering, I want to ask you, what do you think they're doing here? And do you think it is a case of like throwing anything at the wall and seeing what sticks?
Well, honestly, I would be more surprised in this news if we didn't have Billy return as like a ghost
Ghosts.
like figure in Scream 6. So I can't imagine that anything different is going to be done with those two characters in Scream 7. Like you said, both were shown killed on screen. It would be Fast and the Furious level ridiculous if they were to bring these characters back as alive, and I can't see Kevin Williamson doing that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that they will be in some sort of like phantom capacity, like their roles, and as to which characters they'll interact with or who will be seeing these ghosts. Again, I say it like that's what's going to happen. I just cannot think of another logical explanation for them to actually be cast in the movie. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's what's going to happen. But I mean, remains to be seen. I think it's I didn't know about the other actor, but I saw that Matthew Lillard had been cast, and I'm excited for that because I love him. He's having sort of a career renaissance right
Yeah.
now, and even coming back in some horror movies like Five Nights at Freddy's. So that's great because he's like one of my favorite parts about the whole series is his performance in Scream One.
No.
Stu was a great character, and Matthew Lillard's performance as him is for the ages. So I'm really excited for it. What do you think?
Yeah,
That
I
was a
think
long time. You're a huge Scream fan, so what do you think about that?
I am.
Those
I mean,
castings.
I agree with you though. Well, a big question came up online, and I got messaged about it. Like, how much of these casting announcements should be announced, and how much should be kept a secret until the movie comes out? Some
Right.
people said like the whole Matthew Lillard thing would have been great if they kept that a secret until the movie came
I
out.
completely
Um,
agree. It's kind of
I,
yeah.
I agree. The only thing I can think of is that it has to be some kind of dream, and since this is like Sydney's story, that they're all connected to Sydney. So like that would be the only way I kind of similar to how like Melissa Barrera's character had visions of Billy because that was her dad and blah 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 blah. So I
Right.
can't think of any other way that would happen. A lot of people with some Scream Insight news are saying that they are not the only returning dead ghost faces that are coming back from that are being cast in the movie. So they said don't be surprised if you hear like Emma Roberts or Timothy Olyphant, right, who have played ghost faces in different Scream movies, being announced that they're in this. Um,
Okay.
I just hope that just make it make sense because I want to like it. um,
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a case of jumping the shark. I mean, Kevin Williamson's directing it. I have faith in that he wants to do certain things with it. I guess this proves that with Scott Foley even coming back in some capacity that Kevin Williamson doesn't totally hate Scream 3. He didn't write it. I know he has certain feelings about it because he didn't write it. He didn't like the direction it went in, but um, I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, I can only think of it being like some kind of weird dream ghost sequence.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ideas online. Some people think it could have something to do with like AI and like different voice changers and like
Oh God.
and then like yeah and like I don't you're not on X but like if you that fandom on X is crazy. So they have gone off the deep end trying to figure out what this is instead of just being like excited about it. They're like digging deep into like how this could happen. Um, we saw like even if you want to say that Stu maybe survived having a TV fall on his head, um, Scott Foley's Roman Bridger was shot point blank in the head. Like
Yeah.
you
You can't
you
get more
see it,
dead than that. Yeah.
you see it on screen, and like so I I just hope for the best. Also, Ethan Embry was cast too. He's not part of this whole like legacy return, but Ethan Embry from Can't Hardly Wait, he played Preston. He's also joined the movie. It's also a bloated movie now with everyone that's joining it. It's a lot
Mm.
of cast members. I know all these cast members won't have big parts or anything, but I mean, it seems like it's a very crowded movie so far. Um, but I'm optimistic. I love the Scream franchise. I just hope they do the best with this one.
Yeah. Well, I'm rooting for this movie. I hope they pull everything off. And I agree. Like, I definitely wouldn't be announcing these castings, maybe just because of like the ill will in the series right now. What with like the controversy with
Melissa
Melissa
Barrera.
Barrera and the Radio Silence duo not directing and Jenna Ortega dropping out. Maybe they felt they needed to announce this to like get some more audience excitement into going to see it, and I can see that being a reason. But I think that like Stu's return being much more impactful had it been a secret and shocked fans seeing it in theaters. It's
Yeah.
a shame now that we'll never get to see that. But oh well. That isn't something that the announcement of casting, as much as we are guilty of like covering it, we're not spilling the news, like breaking it. So I don't really feel that bad. But I really wish that there was such thing as like secret castings and not everything had to be announced. Like,
Yeah.
it does bother me. Like, it kind of takes the wind out of the sails
The
of like some
excitement of
returning characters. Yeah, the excitement. Yeah, like how sweet would it be to see like to have this a version of like Kevin Spacey in Seven, like for this generation, like a guy, an actor of that magnitude having a role in a movie as big as that one. And we would never
Yeah.
have that nowadays because every single time an A-lister is in a movie or a returning character gets cast, it's, you know, front page news. So
Yeah. The
it's
world has to know.
frustrating. Yeah, exactly. And it's just something, it's a trend of modern day that I don't like. I don't get behind, but
Yep.
anyway, excited to see Matthew Lillard's return. Regardless, he's awesome. I can't wait to see what he does in the movie, and I have faith in Kevin Williamson. So, still excited.
Yep. And we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
Also, if you are a fan of, again, I guess, piggybacking off kind of late 90s, early 2000s related horror news, since Scream started back then, The Faculty is officially getting rebooted. It's funny because when we covered the movie for its anniversary, me, you, and Mark, who was on that episode, mentioned, like, I wonder if they would ever make a sequel to it or if they would reboot it.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're going with the reboot. Robert Rodriguez, who directed the first one or the original, is producing, and Drew Hancock is writing. Drew Hancock actually just wrote and directed Companion, which was really good.
Oh, okay, awesome.
And that movie has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. So I love at least having a good writer behind it. No other news about what it's going to be about. Someone made a joke about like watch them be robots instead of aliens, or there's going to be something like another weird, that kind of AI twist going on with it. But yeah, the original film followed a group of students who begin to suspect that their offbeat administrators and teachers at their high school are actually aliens. It was written by Kevin Williamson and starred Jordana Brewster, Clea Duvall, Josh Hartnett, Sean Hannity, Usher Raymond, Elijah Wood, Famke Jensen, and a slew of others. Made $63.2 million globally and became a huge cult hit afterwards. Real missed opportunity if we don't get some of those younger people to play teachers.
That's a great point, actually, especially where it's a reboot. that could definitely be allowed.
Yeah, I mean, awesome. I know Jordana Brewster has talked about how she would love to do another one. Sean Hannity is another one. I don't know where people like Josh Hartnett, Elijah Wood stand on it, but I think if they present them with a good idea to do it, they might be interested in like doing that. It seems like people were excited though for the news. I know some people prefer the legacy sequel instead of a reboot. I think I think this idea may be a little too hard to legacy sequelize.
Yeah, honestly, this is one of those things that I like the reboot idea more, and I actually think the robots instead of aliens would be a really cool twist on that. Like, I guess, trope. That would be really neat, and especially more timely. What with AI and stuff, and Drew Hancock's previous credit with Companion. That actually is a really good idea. I don't know if like the staff being aliens is too ingrained in the DNA of the faculty that it couldn't be pulled off, but I like where you're headed with that. That's a great idea. I think that could really be pulled off well.
And I think I remember correctly that you enjoyed the faculty when we watched it.
Oh, definitely,
like, It was fun. It was fun.
A lot of fun.
And like one of those things too, where again, like when I heard the news, I was like, oh god, like movies from like when I was like in my early stages of high school are being remade now. Like that's enough to make you feel old.
Definitely,
but I guess it's one of those titles that it has a huge cult following, but it may not be like so like Teflon proof that it couldn't be remade. That it's like, okay, we can see what we can do with it now. It's not like like you wouldn't want to reboot Scream. Doing the legacy sequel thing was the best thing to do with that.
Agreed.
So I think like doing a reboot isn't too far off base. And Robert Rodriguez is producing it, so at least he gets credit there. And I think also Miramax is producing this, and Miramax, since Harvey Weinstein and all them have gone now, the people in charge of it have done what they can to kind of change the narrative of what that studio was like, which is why they've gone back and done so much goodwill with doing Scary Movie 6 and bringing back the Wayans brothers and like doing stuff like that. So like I totally understand it, and looking forward to it.
Honestly though, like as much as I am prone to like criticizing like announcements like this and reboots and pointless legacy sequels, I on paper really like this idea. So I'm excited to cover any further developments that the faculty reboot gets, because I think that could be a lot of fun. And I did really enjoy that movie. But yeah, looking forward to that. Before we get to box office prediction for this episode, there were a handful of trailers that just dropped over the last week that interested on sharing our thoughts with. A couple I really enjoy. Actually, I honestly enjoyed all four that we're going to talk about. First on the list is Fantastic Four, and I'm pleasantly surprised by what I saw from that trailer. I think the biggest thing that this movie had to get right was its portrayal of Galactus. And although we only see a shot of the back of his head and like the shadow on New York City,
no cosmic clouds. That's all I was hoping.
No cosmic clouds. Like all they had to get right, and they did. I would say I really like the futuristic '60s aesthetic. It really reminds me of like the Jetsons. That's the vibe I got from watching that.
Yeah, I love that they went retro with it, and like, that's something that we learned early on when they were like developing it. That it seemed like they were going to do that, and I love the look of it already. I know it was really like a relatively short teaser, but it was enough to get me. And also, they look very early style comic book accurate. If you go look at like old issues of the Fantastic Four, they really do. This is probably the best the Thing has looked on, at least in that trailer, has looked on camera in the movie. Like it just like doesn't look bad. Like everything about the production seems really good. I just that Marvel needed some goodwill with this trailer, I think, because it was really the Fantastic Four. It's Marvel's first family. They want to get it right. They always call them that.
They've not got it right yet on film.
I mean, Justice for the 2005 movie, it's not awful. It's all right. But it's not great for people that love the comic book and stuff. But I don't know. I think it looks great. I think the cast is really good. You can tell they had like a thing on Good Morning America where they introduced the trailer, and it seems like the camaraderie between the four of them is very tight, like in real life. So like that looks like it might translate well on screen. The effects look really good from what I've seen on the trailer.
Agreed.
But I was so smart to do the whole retro thing and like take it out of my. Now I am curious how they're going to bring them into, or what they're going to do to bring them into modern times, because eventually they're going to have to do that, because they are confirmed to be in Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting how they do it. I mean, who knows? They might jump around in time a bit. Not sure how they're going to do it, but I
have a feeling that this will be the first time we see RDJ's Doctor Doom maybe in a post-credit for this movie, where he's such a
part of me thinks that might be the case too.
Yeah, he's a famous Fantastic Four villain, and something tells me that worlds will collide, and the whole multiverse trope will sort of have a hand in that reveal. But I can't see them passing up that opportunity, and it kind of just makes sense. But this is the first Marvel trailer in a long time that I thought to myself, I would go see that. I was down for it. I would go see that. I love the cast. I mean, Pedro Pascal, I adore as an actor. He is in everything lately, which I do think there's too much of a good thing. And he would, I would like to see a little bit. I think less is more sometimes. But I think he's great, going to be great in this. I think Vanessa Kirby is fantastic. And I'm not as familiar with the other two leads so much, but I really like what I saw from that trailer. Thought the aesthetic was fantastic. Pun not intended, but I think it looks really good. So I was pleasantly surprised.
And it opens on July 25th, which is relatively close to the July 11th opening of Superman, which none of those none of those movies are budging. I guess they're just saying like which one's going to do better. So we'll see. Maybe they'll both do well altogether. But also, I guess in early July 2nd is Jurassic World Rebirth. And we talked a lot about how, like, why are they making another one? We don't get it. The last one wasn't good. The last two weren't that great. But then they kept adding, like, oh, Gareth Edwards is directing. Oh, that's fun. He's a good director. Oh, Scarlett Johansson's in it. Like, that's good too.
Love
Jonathan
that
Bailey
casting.
from Wicked also in it. Mahershala Ali's in it. And I will eat crow and say that this actually looks really good. And it like visually it looks really good. It seems like it has more like the adventure style vibe going on with it. It looks like it has an opportunity to maybe be a little bit like frightening in spots too. Like it seems like they want to do a lot more with it than what they did before. I wasn't expecting much at all, and I have thoroughly enjoyed the trailer. I like
the trailer a lot as well. Well, what was I going to say about it? I guess I feel like this movie's been in development for quite a while, because seems like we've been talking it for quite a while before we got any footage of it, but I like the trailer. I gotta say that I'm like a Jurassic World apologist, and I don't
Yeah.
care. I've not seen the most recent one because it just sounded too horrific to bother watching. But I do love, like, there's this part of me that, like, I just love. I have a huge soft spot for the original. It's just like one of those, like, one of my favorite movies, I would say, like in my heart of hearts. It's just
Yeah.
amazing, and I like the second one too. Even like the worst that that series has got, I still think that the scenes with like the dinosaur carnage like always make up for it.
Well,
I think there's always
it's almost like
entertainment
this like
value in those movies.
childlike thing that goes like
Yeah,
this childlike thing that goes along with it, and like so even when
exactly.
I'm like I'm done with this, and then like they pull me right back in. So like
And
um
I think there's a lot of stories in this universe still to be told. Like I think you can, if this veers completely away from like the original stories and like the previous Jurassic World storyline, I don't think that's an issue. In fact, I hope that is what they do. And it looks like we're going to get a lot of like
yeah,
more horror elements in what should be a horror series in
and
Jurassic
I
Park.
and I like that whole like oh like these are some of the dinosaurs that were too dangerous for the park, that kind of thing. I was like, oh whoa, so like we're gonna see some new stuff in this, which is pretty cool.
And we already got some teases at some new unfeatured dinosaurs in that trailer that looked crazy. One was even inspired by the xenomorph. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so like
people
bring it on.
people been like screen capturing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
and for those talking down on Scarlett Johansson saying that she's too good for this franchise, they should probably
she
listen to
wanted
interviews with.
this.
Yeah, you should listen to interviews with her. She said every time that there was a new one that was announced, she would always like go to her agent and be like, "How come this wasn't sent my way?" So she's been wanting to do these for a while, and then she had a meeting with Steven Spielberg, and they didn't even talk about Jurassic Park until well into an hour into it because she didn't want to sound desperate, but she really wanted to do them, and it could be because like us in the original Jurassic Park, she might just have like this kind of like childhood affinity for that first movie and just loves the franchise, and also she's no stranger to doing like popcorn movies and prestige movies. She's always done both.
Right.
So yeah. I mean, I think it's cool that she wants to do it, and it seems like it might be a good idea. They might have found the right like ingredients for like a good proper new story. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for that.
So I think this movie's got a lot of momentum. That trailer seems to be really well received. If they stick away from like the comedy and like I don't, as much as I like Jurassic World, probably more than most like people or moviegoers, that I think it has its detractions without a doubt. It takes itself way too seriously, and there's moments I
Yeah,
find like a little bit cringe inducing. But for
yeah,
what it's worth, like I think like when the dinosaurs are on screen, that movie is awesome. I do hope like tonally it sets itself apart from that for its previous installments. I really hope it leans towards like the adventure thriller, which it seems like it's going to. That's the vibe I got from that trailer, and show us some more,
yeah,
horrific carnivorous dinosaurs more so
yeah.
than the
Like
previous
that's all
movies
you want.
have. Yeah, that's all I
That's
want.
what we want.
And
That's
it's a
not that
winning
hard.
formula. It's just a matter of getting that onto the screen. It
Yeah,
shouldn't be that hard. So I
I
have
mean,
faith in it.
there's a reason why they keep making so much money, and I think people love dinosaur carnage just as much as you do. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. So
Yeah.
uh, the next few, so Final Destination Bloodlines that trailer looked more like it felt more like a clip in the teaser
Yeah.
trailer.
I like that.
But I thought that was cool that they did it that way. And I think it's cool that like this is all coming around the time like the first Final Destination has a big anniversary, like in March. And then like they're bringing the franchise back with this. So I've always loved this franchise. I mean, I
Me
know
too.
the first one to me is the only good like film, but like but the rest of them are still like fun, and they coming up with creative ways to like accidentally kill people on screen. Like,
Yeah.
I
I've
I
always
I mean,
loved the concepts.
yeah. And like so I thought this teaser, which played more like a clip or from the movie, worked really well. Even the start of it with like it was like the chain thing around her tongue, and I was like, oh, where are we going with this? And
Yeah.
I don't know, I think it set it up pretty well. But yeah, what were your quick thoughts on it?
I'm kind of conflicted. Like I liked like the clip made for a good teaser. It's what I am conflicted about is that it gives away a death from the movie like in its entirety.
Yeah,
But it does set up the tone really well. I'd also like I don't trust the trailer to show and leave out and leave anything to the imagination if it were to introduce other characters and like be a typical trailer and showing who else is going to be on screen, I completely think that the trailer is going to ruin it, and like how these characters are going to die and not leave anything to the imagination. So in that sense, I'm okay that it spoils one for the sake of saving the others. But I mean, this is only the first like look, so I feel like we're going to get a conventional trailer that does everything that I just said I was scared about. But
yeah, they'll show you.
I don't want to know
do not
anything
say.
else. I know that we have a new Final Destination coming out. This is the tone of it. Here's one character we're not going to see for very long. I'm
Yeah.
already down to see it. So if another trailer does come out, I don't know that I want to cover it, depending on how spoilery it looks. Like you can be the judge of that, but
Yeah.
I want to just be surprised, and I do
Yeah, I
like
do too.
that series a lot. And if it turns 25, I think it turns 25 this year, right? The first
Yeah,
one.
the first one, yeah,
Definitely
in
cover
March.
that.
Yeah, for sure. And also competing against this on May 16th is a movie called Hurry Up Tomorrow, which I realized I had heard about, but it didn't have a title when I heard about it. But it is this movie with The Weeknd and Jenna
Yeah,
Ortega and Barry Keoghan. It's directed by who was it directed by? Trey
Trey
Edward
Edward
Schultz.
Schultz, his first movie in
Oh
6 years.
yeah, and that is what has me the most interested. But the movie, The Weeknd stars as a fictionalized version of himself who is pulled into an existential odyssey by a mysterious stranger. It's being described as a musical psychological thriller. And
Okay.
also, that was so funny because I made that comment about people saying things are self-indulgent, only because I watched The Idol and I see the potential and how self-indulgent The Weeknd can be.
Yep.
That's my concern with this, but I did like the trailer. I thought it really set up a really cool kind of like surreal, like
Yeah.
I'm not sure what this is kind of vibe, and it made me intrigued by what I saw. So
It felt
you know,
Lynchian to me. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like very
So
surreal. I
like,
love that The Weeknd is playing himself. Like I think that's pretty neat, and I like that he's
yeah,
not directing it. Like I think he could. I'm
I
not.
think that probably helps a lot.
Yeah, not convinced of his chops yet. I haven't seen him act other than in Uncut Gems, or is it Good Time? What Safdie movie is he in?
I believe it's Uncut Gems.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. I think it is Uncut Gems. I haven't seen The Idol yet, but I know that was not received very well, and he had a big producing role in that show. But yeah, I'm down for this. I think if he's working with the director, the likes of Trey Edward Schultz, who I thought was great, that says
Yeah,
something. The other supporting cast is great. We got Jenna Ortega in there. Um, yeah, I'm down for it. Looks pretty interesting. I think it's interesting
yeah.
how like in the trailer, he's credited by his real name, Abel. I can't remember his last name, and then like IMDb has him credited as The Weeknd, like
The
playing
Weeknd.
himself. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny. Is it
Yep.
Fayez? I'm not sure what his last name
It's
is.
like Tesfaye. It's like
Oh, Tess Faye.
TSFAYE.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
I'm intrigued by. I mean, I think Jenna Ortega and Barry Keoghan being a part of it helps me want to see it more.
Yeah,
Um,
me too. I'd
and
see
also the
anything Barry
director helps.
Keoghan.
And also, yeah, I love how surreal it kind of looks. And lynching was a good way to describe it. Like, I was like, I don't really know what this is per se, but I'm intrigued by it. So let's go.
Bring it on. Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
in May.
May 16th, the same day as Final Destination Bloodlines. So
Okay.
yeah, and to wrap things up, we got to predict Hard Days real quick. We're all excited for this. We're gonna cover it on the show after we both see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good review so far. I think last time I saw it was in the 90% range when I looked the last time. I might have
Awesome.
gone down because it is a horror movie. Tracking has it at highest 15 million right now, but this is going at. Bear in mind, it is also Super Bowl weekend, and movies have a big fall on this. The movies have a big fall on the Sunday. Now, this movie might definitely rebound on Valentine's Day weekend, even with Captain America opening. But yeah, 90% still on Rotten Tomatoes. The reviews have been pretty good so far. It's been like a good time for horror right now too.
Yeah.
So taking the Super Bowl into account, and also I think I remember this for Presents, but I think when we covered Presents, I said it would gross 6.5 or something like that. Ended up opening the 3.4 when we covered it. Which is not too bad.
Did we predict that, or did we?
Yeah, it was a while. It was a couple episodes ago. But I think we did.
Yeah, I don't have it written down here.
Sure
I kind of we must have. I don't have it written down what we predicted. My bad.
But no, it's okay.
Yeah, I'll get back to that.
Start fresh.
So did you win? Or
I believe I did because I think you went higher than me by a little
I
bit.
think I did. Yeah. Okay.
I think you like 6.7 or something like that.
I've been
So I really
tracking
did
these. I
win
must have
with.
wrote that down somewhere else where I didn't save it. That's my bad.
But yeah, what do you think this is gonna open?
What's this up against for a budget?
Oh, let me check.
I'm looking at IMDb here before I
I
get
imagine it
into.
can't be that high. Also, Mason Gooding is like in every horror movie now.
Yeah, look at him there. Jordana Brewster though, leading it.
Yeah,
She's fantastic. What do I think this is gonna make?
Emmett
I mean, I
Sawa.
think that the Super Bowl release
Oh,
really throws things off.
$18 million to produce, by the way. $18 million budget, so not that bad.
18 million. Oh boy. I hate going first. 18 million. I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna go with 9. I don't know if it's too high or
Okay.
not,
Yeah.
but I know like it's a themed slasher that might get girlfriends out of the house or maybe boyfriends that love slasher movies to and excuse that's what I'm using. I'm taking my girlfriend to this for sure. That's gonna be a
Wanna go see
Valentine's
it?
Day date night. So
There you go.
maybe there will be some like-minded individuals out there that use this as a date night opportunity that they might not otherwise have done. I'm hoping that brings in some box office dollars. I have no idea. Like, there's no education behind that guess. I'm just kind of throwing out a number. And based on
All right.
the box office right now with Presence at 3, that 9
Yeah.
seems similar ballpark, I guess. So
I'm gonna
yeah,
go a
9
little
million.
higher only because I think interest is a little. It seems
Okay.
high,
Okay.
but not much higher. I'm gonna go like 3 of them. I'm gonna go 12.
Okay. Nice. That's a good gap.
Yeah. And I'm also considering Super Bowl Sunday because like movies crash on Sunday during Super Bowl weekend because
Right.
everyone's at home watching it. So I'll go with 12, but with the chance of it like rebounding in the next weekend.
Okay. Well, hopefully it does and it sees an uptick. But okay, so we'll tune in next week and see who wins that battle. You say 12,
Yep.
I say 9. Looking forward to
There you
that.
go.
It's not every day you get a Halloween or a Valentine's Day themed horror movie, so it's nice.
True.
We've been talking about that with some recent releases, and I know there's been My Bloody Valentine, but it's been
Yeah,
a long
it's
time
been a
since we've
while.
had something at this holiday to celebrate at the movies. So,
Yeah,
and I love that it's not a rom com. So that's great.
there you go. I don't think we have one this year on the Valentine's Day weekend. So yay, we
Yeah,
have
sweet.
this Captain America's next week. Like no traditional
That's it.
rom coms out. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I'm okay with that because it's not my genre, but
All right,
um,
wrap us up. I know you got to
all
go.
right. Yes, that concludes all the news in the last week or so, guys. So thanks for tuning in to listen to us spew that out. I'm sure we'll have another news episode for you next week. In the meantime, you guys can check out our anniversary episode for In the Mouth of Madness. And we've still got The Breakfast Club and Scream 3 to look forward to, each with their own anniversary episode coming out this month. And we'll have Mark join us for Scream 3. Looking forward to that. Thanks again, always, for tuning in, guys. It's always awesome to share another episode with you guys. Looking forward to seeing you next week with another anniversary and news episode. And Gaius, as always, it's a pleasure. You guys now know, check us out anywhere you guys get your podcasts. Listen to us on the Playlist Studio app. Regardless of your device, you guys can find it on that app store. And we appreciate you guys giving us a listen to over there or wherever you guys listen to us. It's always appreciated. So thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.